Hi everyone, welcome to Modern Maven Tarot and Astrology. I'm Andrea Elizabeth, and today we are going to discuss the ways in which your Saturn placement can help nurture resilience. So if you do have your chart or your child's chart, I do recommend grabbing it. And just a reminder, a lot of my tarot and astrology is focused on parenting, but you're never too old to parent yourself as well. So not only using this information for your children, but for your inner child. So if you are somebody who doesn't have children, this information is still really useful. So let's dive in right away. Okay, so let me just pop this up here. All right, perfect. So what your Saturn placement can teach you about resilience. First, let's talk about resilience. So the definition of resilience is the ability to cope mentally or emotionally with a crisis or to return to pre-crisis status quickly through adversity and positive adaptation. So one of the important things to remember when it comes to astrology is our environment, especially during those first stages of development, really affects the ways in which those traits are shown and whether or not we suppress them or we can freely express them. And that a big emphasis on those early first 6 years of development have a strong impact on that. Also, something too that's interesting that my mom brought up is your Chiron placement. Now, this is something that's new to me in regards to astrology. I highly recommend checking out Pam Gregory as well. Amazing astrologer on YouTube. Uh, Wonderful breakdowns of all these types of placements. And also Stillwater Alchemy, their week ahead for the week of July 17th has a lot of information connected to what we're going to be talking about because the new moon in Cancer and the nodal shift happening right after that into Aries and Libra is there's a great emphasis on the information that we're going to be diving into. And I brought this up in my weekly tarot that there's been a really strong emphasis ever since that full moon in Capricorn of, the foundations are crumbling. And that involves not only societal foundations, but the foundations within us. If they are connected to these wounds, the tower's coming in to release us from that. And again, Saturn connecting to shame and fear and our limitations. Saturn's here to teach us, it's not here to hinder us. So that's something to keep in mind when we're going through this information because that's the biggest thing is if we're in the right environment, Saturn's going to nurture our development. If we're in the wrong environment, it's going to be a lot more difficult to cope with these things. And it's, a lifelong journey. So you're going to have, your Saturn returns. And when, your sign in Saturn is prominent astrologically for the collective, that also can, have an impact. So the reason I'm bringing this up too is I feel like childhood development, because we're shifting into nurturing, because we're shifting societally into nurturing collectively, I really feel like childhood development, and especially when it comes to resilience, are going to come into to have attention because we definitely have seen how the definition of resilience has sort of been manipulated in a way because resilience doesn't mean placing yourself or your child into situations aren't good for them. Resilience is those situations which are out of our control and learning to cope with them. And again, like therapy is such an important thing. Children, no matter what your age, therapy, I don't know, it's doesn't need to be only for crisis. It's a wonderful tool to help children build their emotional regulation, build their resilience. And again, like a big part of emotional regulation is also connected to resilience. So when I was doing the readings for July, that was the first thing where, because it's like all of the information for all of the signs was really connected to these childhood wounds and finally addressing them, embracing them, and moving on. And so much of that shift has been happening for me personally, and I've been seeing collectively too. And the biggest thing to me was when we're focusing on, Saturn and Capricorn, and we're focusing on fears and limitations and boundaries, and all of that is connected to how we nurture our resilience. And then I started looking at my Saturn placement. And when it comes to those areas from childhood that the patterns keep showing up, or the lessons I've learned, especially in the last 2 years, so strongly connected to my Saturn placement. And I can't tell you how many times I've read my chart and it was still oh my God, like, how did I not see this before? So take a look at that. Take a look at your Saturn placement. See and read the description. And again, Pam Gregory, if you Google Pam Gregory free birth chart, you can download your free birth chart. Wonderful description of your Saturn placement. Or even just Google, and then Google, Saturn in whatever the sign is that it's in, and see if you can find any useful information with that too. But it was definitely an aha moment for me. So yeah, going back to this. So all of this energy then leading up to this new moon in Cancer, which we had on July 17th, it's all about just shedding all this stuff that no longer serves you, and these can be beliefs about yourself, beliefs that you couldn't do what you wanted to do. And looking back at the fears you've had and being like, I can't believe I've let that hold me back for so long. So take a look. I just really feel like this information, especially with the astrological chart as it is collectively, this is so important and integral to this shift and us shifting into this new, and especially going into Leo season. Okay, so now that we know resilience, let's explain what your Saturn placement represents. Again, Saturn is where we find our limitations, fears, and boundaries. It's where we learn our greatest lessons by being challenged. So again, when we are nurturing our resilience, these challenges, these lessons and challenges are seen as that, and not seen as destructive and chaotic. So when we're in the right mentality to face these things, we're building our resilience like we build a muscle, and and that happens over time. And again, it's that misinterpretation of just, oh well, life is what it is, and just not paying attention to nurturing your child's development. So it's a balance. There's things we can't control in life, but there's things that we know instinctively are good for development and are bad for development. And using that information and empowering yourself with that information. I will be also posting some videos linked to the different stages of childhood development and how you can use astrology in every area of development, from 0 to adulthood. Okay, now, Saturn is also where we grow and learn, which is why learning to utilize resilience in these placements can be beneficial, which I kind of already covered. But all right, so let's go sign to sign. So what is Saturn in Aries? So Saturn is known for being cautious, while Aries has a reputation as the impulsive sign of the zodiac. People with Saturn in Aries can be fearful of taking risks or asserting themselves if Saturn's influence takes the lead. And again, too, I'm going sign by sign in astrological order. So you can skip ahead and, find your sign if you want to skip ahead. But again, all this information I feel like is useful. Okay, so on the other hand, Saturn in Aries can overcompensate for their self-doubt and become brash, display exaggerated self-confidence, and be overly authoritative and defiant. So understanding the difference between confidence and arrogance can be really beneficial, which is why I believe incorporating this information at, the earliest stages of development is so beneficial, because when we can see these, it's, there's two sides to every coin. So are you or your child on this one side of over-exaggerated, self-confident, and brash, or are you overly cautious? So keep that in mind. So when we think about child development too, finding the ways to work with this and nurture this, and definitely group play, super important, because you get to see the other perspectives. Working with, I have these feelings flashcards for my daughter, I can link them too, but they go through every emotion, focusing on the emotions that display this type of behavior. How do we, with emotional regulation, approach these situations? And also, too, another reminder, just with these nodal shifts, they're shifting into North Node Aries and South Node Libra. So if you are Saturn in Aries, definitely pay attention to these challenges arising in the next, I think, 18 months. But again, go to Pam Gregory and Stillwater Alchemy. They have wonderful information on these nodal shifts and what they represent for each sign. Now, Saturn in Taurus. So one of your biggest life lessons is understanding the true satisfaction doesn't rely solely on wealth or material possessions. If you don't have as much as you think you should, it has a tendency to damage your self-esteem and create worry about your future. Teaching a healthy relationship with money at an early age can help with the lessons Saturn will teach people with this placement. Homemade toys and projects can be really beneficial with people with this placement at a young age. So learning to appreciate what we have, the gratitude, making a gratitude list, going to bed every night. This is something actually, I've fallen off track of, because her Saturn is in Capricorn, but me and my daughter, we were doing this every night. Let's list 5 things we're grateful for before we go to bed. So that's my reminder that we're going to get back into the rhythm of that, because her Saturn's in Capricorn. So it's just as important for Saturn in Capricorn too, and any Earth sign. So yes, taking advantage of the utilizing your resources that you already have, taking the pasta and making pasta necklaces and that kind of stuff where you can teach the gratitude, doing volunteer work, definitely, just because you're going to be challenged with this feeling of limitation when it comes to that. If you do have those challenges, you want to have that understanding of resourcefulness and appreciating all the wonderful things you already have, because when you do have that lack, thoughts of lack only bring more lack. And that's something even I struggle with. And the biggest part of manifesting is gratitude. Having gratitude is that shift into the right vibration, then you can move forward. So if you're Saturn in Taurus, you could have some problems with identifying that if you're not taught at an early age how to shift that perception. All right, now let's move to Saturn in Gemini. People with Saturn in Gemini often struggle with self-doubt. Once you start dwelling on this doubt mentally, it creates a fear within you that prevents you from moving forward. You may have an especially hard time in school and in a school setting, or in keeping a long-term job. So what can help people with Saturn and Gemini is participating in activities that emphasize self-confidence and discipline. What I love and thought of first is karate. Karate is a wonderful activity for somebody with Saturn and Gemini, because it teaches the 2 of the main themes of karate are self-discipline and self-confidence, and respect for yourself and for your, I guess, classmates, I guess I would call it. But that's why I put my daughter in karate, was for the self-confidence. So wonderful activity, anything group related that teaches discipline and self-confidence is wonderful. Even dance or yoga. I mean, anything that you can find where there's a mix of self-confidence and discipline with activities, highly recommend getting a start on that early in age. And again, I gear this towards children, but again, our own inner child. If this is something that you've struggled with self-confidence and discipline, go into a karate class. They have it for adults. I know I took karate in college, loved it, and could not also believe what an amazing workout it is. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a workout, but trust me, it is. So if that is your placement, give it a try and see if it works. All right, so now Cancer and Saturn. This placement, you protect your emotions inside your crab shell, making it difficult for you to open up and let in others. This could lead to bouts of depression if you don't express how you feel. So learning emotional boundaries early on can help people with this placement. Now, obviously, we all need to learn emotional boundaries. It's one of the most crucial, in my opinion, most crucial areas in childhood development that needs to be emphasized, because boundaries are not known to a child, they're taught. So what I love about this, with this placement, play therapy early on in life, focused on being comfortable with expressing our emotions while not allowing others' reactions to influence how we feel about our self-expression, can be so beneficial. So that's why I definitely think, again, the feeling cards that I had mentioned, wonderful too, because they teach all about emotions. So if you have Saturn in Cancer, and you probably have a connection to these emotions, you just don't know how to express them. So these feeling cards that I'll link, I have to remember to do that. They are fantastic because they go through it and what this feeling is. How can you deal with this feeling when you have it? And then they have the blank cards where then you feel what can you do to do it? But they're just fabulous. So highly, highly, highly recommend that. But play therapy early on in life. You're never too young to start therapy. And now that we societally have embraced it more as the norm, hopefully that shift is happening too, where we just nurture that early on in life, because having that in the first stages of development is that shift we need, because so much of the chaos that we're seeing in society is connected to a lack of emotional regulation and a lack of the nurturing of those first 6 years of life. And, nurturing too, it's not just learning and being as smart as you can. So that's the thing, is there's a balance of everything. An overactive schedule is not healthy for a child. So really, really believing that this shift is happening, and again, why this information is so important. All right, let's move on to Saturn in Leo. Now, one of your greatest life lessons is to learn how to let down your guard and realize that others will actually respect you more for it. Teamwork in parenting may be especially difficult for you because you naturally fall into the role of commander and disciplinarian. So emotional regulation, speaking of emotional regulation, this is very important to teach early on. Activities that require discipline and teamwork can also be very beneficial. So again, like I said, karate, fantastic, especially for a Leo energy. Even if people in this placement want to resist such activities, definitely encourage it. And that's why it's so important, at an early age to get this ball rolling, because they can get comfortable and used to this before that resistance is in full force. All right, Saturn and Virgo. So you need a certain level of predictability and control in order to feel comfortable. Sometimes this means you get stuck in a rut because you're too comfortable. If you're not careful, you could find yourself settling for limiting situations. Analysis paralysis is a tendency of this placement. Now, it would be greatly beneficial for people with Saturn and Virgo to have a great deal of messy play early in life that's balanced with learning. I highly recommend enrolling in a Montessori style of preschool. I recommend that for every single sign, every single child, but definitely this for especially Saturn and Virgo, super beneficial, because they mix, especially when it comes to nature, because Virgos are an earth sign. So you're very connected to earth with this energy. So being grounded in earth with a placement where you are going to face your challenges and limitations is such a fantastic start to life. But yeah, you get messy, you play, but then you also learn how to clean up after yourself, do the dishes, cook and clean and all this wonderful stuff. So if you have a Saturn in Virgo, a child with Saturn in Virgo, highly, highly, highly recommend a Montessori school. Okay, Saturn in Libra. You may often feel like you struggle when relating to others, whether in a loving partnership, a work alliance, or any other one-on-one situation. But these struggles aren't meant to discourage you. They're actually happening in order to teach you. So understand that relationships are a two-way road. Another reason starting this early on can be so beneficial, because having this wired, because again, that the core development of wiring your brain is 0 to 6. you don't stop wiring until age 25. And again, I believe that we're going to realize that it's never too late to rewire your brain. However, that core development for 6 years. So really having a connection to understanding that there are other perspectives in life, because that's so important. You don't have to agree with another person's perspective, but understanding where somebody is coming from is so important in life. And again, another reason why we're in the crisis we are, it's so polarized and there's just so much hurt. And again, it's all this wounded child hurt because we just simply aren't addressing this aspect of development in a manner that is nurturing ourselves, our children, the earth, everything, because it all comes to respect and understanding. So activities that require seeing other people's perspective can be very beneficial for people with Saturn in Libra. Working on self-love from an early age is also a good idea, especially focused on knowing you are enough. So a great activity with that is tapping. I have an emotions book that teaches all these coping mechanisms for children with big emotions, and tapping is a wonderful one. And self-love. So this isn't you telling your kid how loved they are and hugging them and having, especially if you're a water sign, and over nurturing that love, 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 I love you, because that's coming from the outside. You're just pouring water on them. They need to fill their own cup and drink the cup of, emotional fulfillment. So ways to build that self-love, and obviously self-confidence can go with that, but self-love is just really about loving and respecting yourself. And so they're going to have challenges when they feel embarrassed or shame and all those things that I'm hoping that we're releasing in society, but that they're going to be there no matter what. So this placement will definitely feel that more. And so working on that self-love at an early age is so wonderful and beneficial. And why, again, Montessori learning is so important, because you teach the individual how important they are in the collective. And so that's also obviously a really great idea for this placement. Okay, Saturn and Scorpio. This is mine, actually. So you might believe that professional interactions are like games of chess, and you never want to give anything away for fear of opponents using this information against you. When trust is broken, this can be extremely difficult. Now, individuals with Saturn and Scorpio will grow through Scorpio themes. They are being taught to trust and embrace all the agonies and ecstasies of life. The greatest fear of those with Saturn and Scorpio is that others have power and control over them. So I definitely felt this the last 2 years. And honestly, I wish I would have, obviously retrospect, but going through this information now and seeing in hindsight how this could have helped me through a very, very difficult time in my life. It's that control, is so hard, especially with all of these foundations that are crumbling, all these top-down authoritative, being told what to do and being forced to do certain things. That is a big fear. And so when you understand that shifting when you get stuck in it, you get stuck in it. And it's not saying that it's not your fault for these situations arising, but learning to work through it, and that knowing that these challenges are building resilience, and having the confidence to know that just keep moving forward, doing what's best for you and doing what's best for your children will always, in the end, have the greatest reward. Another important thing about Saturn and Scorpio is that stress is heightened with this placement. So practicing appropriate exercise to release the tension produced in the body due to worrying about what you can't control can help build resilience. This is crucial, because I have thought about this too. So, the ebbs and flows of life and the challenges of life. The biggest release of that tension for me is exercise. It's shadowboxing on Peloton. It's just walking on my treadmill. That is so focused on getting centered. Yoga too. There in my 20s, I had an emotional crisis where I remember yoga just put me right back into where I needed to be and persevere and build that resilience. So definitely Saturn and Scorpio placements teach your children, teach your inner child to shift that worry through exercise by releasing that tension. And it feels so good to do that because it really helps build your resilience and also physically make you stronger while you're mentally becoming stronger too. Okay, Saturn and Sagittarius. You may forget to stop and smell the roses once in a while. So your intense focus and desire for proficiency can be a good thing so long as you temper it with the moments of simply experiencing the world around you. Saturn likes rules and Sagittarius likes freedom, which can cause severe rebellion. People with Saturn and Sagittarius tend to experience setbacks in early life related to everything Sagittarius represents. Personal power combined with understanding the importance and benefits of structure can be beneficial. This again, I mean, I cannot stress enough how wonderful Montessori learning is for children, but this is to a T what Montessori teaches you. Personal power and responsibility along with the importance of benefits of structure, because that it's teaching you independent freedom and confidence within a structured environment, because routine is so crucial to childhood development with limited activities too. But yeah, highly recommend that for this placement, because again, when those setbacks happen one after another, I mean, we have a misconception of resilience as like, whatever, like kids are resilient, they'll bounce back. It's like, well, it needs to be nurtured too. Otherwise, you're conditioned to think this is just how life is, and that's not what you want to teach your children, because again, Saturn is here to teach you lessons. When those lessons are learned, we move past them. All right, Saturn in Capricorn. Now, this is my daughter, so you aren't one to go against social convention or question authority. In fact, you believe that your order is what makes the world go round. This can cause people with this placement to try and control others so they too follow the rules. And yes, so this is definitely something that has been brought to my attention. Is it's very hard, especially for my daughter. When people don't follow the rules, it makes her very, very anxious and causes like a lot of anxiety. So something that I'm teaching her and reminding her is that we can't control what others do, but we can control how we react. And that kind of concept of, staying in your own lane in a sense, not saying that you ignore people who aren't following the rules, but you have a choice of whether or not you personally absorb that or not. So this is something I've been trying to teach her, is to let it go, and tapping helps. Her therapist actually taught her this wonderful starfish. It's called starfish. So when that anxiety comes up, you do, I don't know, but you can do this with your hands and it releases. I mean, it works for me too. Highly recommend it for everybody. But yeah, there's tools that you can teach when these things bubble up, like give them the tools then to navigate. And then when they have the tools, they can build that resilience with their tools. So again, with Saturn in Capricorn, taking on too much responsibility can often lead to burnout or feelings as though the weight of the world is on your shoulders. Since anxiety can be a concern, activities that teach how to cope with anxiety can be beneficial. Again, tapping, the starfish, focusing on this. And when you have that as a child, and it's just ingrained in you because it's wired into your brain how to have a tool that can help work through this, then it helps you later in life too. Okay, Saturn in Aquarius. As a natural leader, others will often lean heavily on you with your Saturn in Aquarius, and people will gravitate towards you when they need support. You might push people away because of this draining energy. You may also have a difficult time falling in love if you have learned this lesson too well. So learning ways to cleanse ourselves of other people's energy, especially if we gravitate towards a career in service, will be extremely beneficial. Something that like bath time with a kid. And I know I've mentioned this in another video, but when you're doing bath time and you say you're washing the hair, okay, we're cleansing away other people's energy from the day. So then when your child gets older, they just know in their routine that they're cleansing that other people's energy off of them and ready to start a new day the next day. So highly recommend too, Saturn and Aquarius, bath time and showers at night, because you want to release everything from the day, especially too when you're in a career of service. So teaching how to understand balancing our wants with other people's wants at an early age can also be really helpful. And activities such as with physical balance, like yoga, can really help. So definitely, I mean, you think physically balance with mental balance. So always take what is mentally needed and see if there's a physical activity that relates to that you can incorporate to your life and your child's life. All right, Saturn in Pisces. With your Saturn in Pisces, your spirituality is grounded and your fantasies flow seamlessly with reality. You may take on the pains or joys of others as their experiences interplay with your own. Teaching ways to cleanse energetic attachments will be very beneficial. So along with the Sagittarius, so along with the Aquarius that I just explained, the bath time at night, cleansing other people's energy, knowing that you are separate from other people. As a Pisces sun, that empathy, that other people's vibration and energy really can attach to you. And it's easy to forget that sometimes. So highly recommend that process of not only with bath time that, you know, we're this is part of our daily routine, but this is also energetically, we're cleansing ourselves energetically of other people's energy. So Saturn in Pisces, this placement can result in difficulties in creating boundaries and structure, which is so important in early childhood development. Reality and fantasy blur, intuition and emotions take over reason, and spirituality becomes our passion. So grounding, so important. Activities like yoga will be useful to incorporate at an early age. But again, play therapy. If you have Saturn in Pisces, that's definitely, I think, a very, very good idea to get a child into play therapy where we learn boundaries. And again, Montessori with structure, because those things are just taught into you and then they're ingrained into you. Okay, so your Saturn return, just a reminder, because like I said, your Saturn return definitely is when the people say that this stuff, you know, comes to a head. However, I feel like I've noticed it's not necessarily my Saturn return as much as other placements. So, but what is said though is that your Saturn return typically kicks in around age 27 or 28. And this is a time of coming into alignment with your life's true path. So work tends to be a major theme, and many make significant career changes during this time. So I guess I started the shift, but you know, so this is the idea too, that these processes take time. Then also too, with your Saturn return, Saturn will give you very clear signals if you're not aligned with your calling or pursuing your passions. So again, if you're looking at that, look at your Jupiter and see what sign your Jupiter is in. Because another aha moment, I can't tell you again how many times I've read my chart and I looked at it recently and I was just like, oh yeah, this is what I meant to be doing. So definitely, because my Jupiter is in Sagittarius, so definitely take a look, because if you are at this stage, if your Saturn return is here and you're not aligned, you're going to notice. So definitely pay attention to that. So Saturn is the, quote, tough love planet whose lessons can feel harsh, which is another reason why building resilience in this area is so beneficial to address at an early age. But again, at any age. So I really hope that you found this information useful. If there's anything you want me to elaborate on, please send a comment. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment on this video so that it boosts its visibility and more people can see it. And again, check out those videos from Pam Gregory's Stillwater Alchemy on the new moon in Cancer and the nodal shifts, because this information with Saturn and resilience, along with what that information on these shifts, all the way back to the full moon in Capricorn, check out videos on that too, because this whole month has just been, my mom told me about this astrologer. I feel bad, I forgot their name, but she said it's like the birth squeeze. So it's like going through the birth canal. Do you like how I like physically did it right there? So we're in that birth squeeze right now, right? And we're birthing into something new and wonderful. And so why we want to nurture this area of our chart and our child's chart, so that this shift into Leo season can feel more comfortable and empowering. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Also, don't forget to check out your monthly tarot, July tarot. I also have been doing the weekly tarots on TikTok and Instagram, but I'm actually going to switch to YouTube and start doing the weeklies on there. So have a wonderful, cleansing, new moon energy week, and I will talk to you all soon.